I'm with my man, the great man, my right-hand man, Daniel, the great man, Irwin. How are you, mate?
Mate, not too bad, buddy. Managing to dodge my way around the spicy flu, mate, and just keep nice and healthy. So, hey, when we first started doing these back in what was it, April 2020?
Yep.
But who would have thought that we would still be sitting here? What are we on now? 20 months later, going, fuck, guys, you know what? COVID is now finally really ripping through our society.
Yeah, it's great. Yes, the better part of 2 years later, mate, it's really bloody, and being here in the Gold Coast as Ken Herman joins us, Patina Ryan's on board. Hello, Angie Paradise, Joyce Simmons, and no doubt there'll be heaps more come and join us tonight for the first one for this year, Dan. Gold Coast is the epicenter for Australia right now. It's fucking what's going on for COVID. Hey, Sam.
Mate, I don't know what you guys have been up to over Christmas down there, but super spreader events everywhere.
20 Ks fucking south of where I'm sitting right now is this little thing called the border.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Fucking let you in, mate. Let you in. Well, mate, Western Australia, who knows what they're going to do? Maybe they'll be separate from Australia in 12 months' time. Who knows what they're going to do? In all seriousness, so it is it's a very interesting time, I think, that and I just sort of want to recognise those people who have sort of experienced COVID or are experiencing COVID or have had family members and stuff like that have been very seriously impacted. Whilst we make a little bit of light out of it, that's not making light of a very serious situation, obviously.
For sure.
We certainly feel for those people who have gone through, and mate, from my understanding, it sucks when it really hits you. And I don't want it to happen to me, to be perfectly honest.
Tamara got it on the 2nd of December, and she's literally day on, day off. Good day, shit day. Okay day, shit day, better day. So yeah, it's bloody crazy, mate. It's certainly lingering, and none of us are being immune there. So Benny Hinton's in the house, Nige Bates, Jane Kelly, Brenton Arthur, Daniel Buckman, Sammy TW again, Timmy McGregor. Can't wait to catch up with you, champion, as well soon. Leslie Duggan's in the house.
How's Kent Herman been out buying new houses, and then the next thing you know, he's off buying new cars? I don't know what's going on there, mate.
Thank fuck he did it in the right order.
Exactly right, mate. Don't people just fuck that quite royally very, very regularly? So I just saw that on Facebook. I was about to give you guys a cheeky little comment as well, Ken, just to check in. And I don't know if that was written on the plan, but you guys are big kids. You'll be able to look after that stuff as well. But mate, there's some other people in there like Brenton Arthur. A special shout out to you, brother. I mean, we've been working on your plan for more than a year and a half or so now, mate. You've finally gotten to that point in time where you've been able to really properly step over the mark. So massive congratulations for you getting through that little step in the journey as well, buddy.
Fucking brilliant. Love it, love it, love it. I'm looking now. Brenton just got his finance approved for his first property. Jesus Christ, $474,000. It ain't like that anymore.
Doesn't exist, mate. So Brenton, when we get to the point, mate, where land settlement comes through for you, mate, you and I are going to have a nice little phone call. Yes. And I'm just going to explain the scenario that you're operating in now, that just to be perfectly honest, the amount of capital growth that you probably experienced from sitting there with $1,000 in the market for 18 months or something like that. It's fucking very phenomenal for you, brother.
Yeah. In that location anymore, Brenton, for what you've bought, buddy. And there's many other clients on the line right now. Hey, Lockie Brown, for first time champion, but I've seen you on here anyway. It doesn't start with a 4 anymore. It's got a, and I'm not talking about 500 either. It's not
well beyond that.
It's well beyond. It doesn't just fall over the 5 line. It's fucking well past the 5 line. So which is good for you, mate. Let's open it up to the floor.
Can you just explain what we do here tonight, mate? Like, it's a new year.
Yes.
I just noticed, I was just having a look through the names there, and there's 1 or 2 new names there, and I've got no doubt there's some mad creepers in the background there, sitting there going, I'm not going to say anything tonight. I'm just going to watch what they say, and I'm going to form my own judgments. That's not what this place is about. It's a very safe spot. It's a space for you to be able to ask the question that no one else wants to ask, because lots of people want the answer to it. So go ahead and launch that question. But over to you, RT. What's the rules of the road for tonight?
I was just about to say quickly, I've failed many people's judgments on their first impressions. And as the saying goes, you only get one chance at a first impression. And I've probably failed that on many, many occasions. So he's hoping I can sort of turn this around in 2022. Look, We run a bloody property company, which, the purpose of Axon Property Group is to allow you, the defense community, to secure your financial future by buying houses. Got it. Own home, investment properties, fucking whatever you want, really. But it's not just about the property space. It's all about how to transition from defense, how to Dan, you think about it as a property coach, I feel like a lot of the time we're life planners, we're marriage counselors, we're family planners, we're careers advisors, we're padres. And we talk about property sometime as well, because it's all encompassing as far as that goes. That's why, as many of you would understand. And for those that haven't had the opportunity to have a coaching session with us yet, you will discover there is a life line of operation above the timeline, and then there's a property line of operation underneath the timeline. Why? Because you buy properties in your life to have a better life, or what's going on in your life will more than likely dictate when you can or can't buy your next property. If the missus is going to have a kid and then she's going to be on mat leave for the next 12 months, that's going to significantly hurt your borrowing power, for instance. Or if you go and fucking buy a hire purchase car, or, dare I say it, salary sacrifice, a car, or, whatever else, banks hate that shit. So your borrowing, it really, really affects it. So we need to synchronize what you want to do into how you can also create wealth in your life. So we talk about veteran entrepreneurship. We talk about, as a guy that did half his career as an OR, the other half of my career as an officer, I can pretty much talk to most people because I've had an opportunity to sort of be on both sides of the fence as far as that goes. So what's going on in your career and what's going on with your transition? And I'm certainly going to spread my wings now that I've sort of created this little space whereby the property bits and pieces takes care of itself, led by Dan now as the operations manager. I want to talk about veteran entrepreneurship. How do you start your own business? If you've had a fucking gut full of people telling you what to do since the day you signed that dotted line and you want to go and be your own boss one day, I'm all for it. Exhibit A. But it ain't fucking easy. And there's so many things about starting a business. I wish another veteran or another business owner had the opportunity of passing on to me, so I could have succeeded quicker and faster and more easy, etc. So I've got a massive passion to help people out in the first instance. And it's been going for almost 9 years now I've been out. And I've been doing that in the property space all this time. The team's going to keep doing that, and I get to pick and choose who I do and don't coach as far as that goes. Lockie, you're a classic example. Of course, I'm not just going to pass you on to someone else because, I've known you for a few years now. So, but I do want to be able to make sure that veteran entrepreneurship and just fucking being successful in transitioning into the real world is something that you guys and girls are all going to do one day, like it or lump it, and we're going to be here for you. So apart from that, you guys can basically ask us anything. Dan, that's a long answer to your short question, but that's my first little summary for 2022. We're here for you. Dan and I and the other coach Dane, and we get joined by various other sort of guest people that come along as well. If we want to draw off about a particular topic or part of the industry, we'll get some guests on here. We even have some clients that come through and tell their sort of success stories as well. Generally when they get out, because I don't want to jump on here and bloody as a uniform member, because no doubt old mate down in fucking DIO will be bloody jumping on them, a couple of weeks later to come and tell their stories as well. So ask away. We're here for you. We put aside an hour every fortnight to make sure that we're here for you to give you guys the no bullshit, raw and real, hot off the press questions, because it's totally unscripted. You guys are in charge of what's going on. Dan and I are more than happy to give you a bit of an update about what's happening in our space, but absolutely, you guys drive the conversation, you guys drive the tempo, and you'll get the no bullshit, very truthful answer from us.
There you go. Mate, and I suppose a special mention to one lovely lady that tries her very, very best to either be here with us every week or absolutely tunes in after the fact anyway. So special shout out to Deb, and I'm sure there's a lot of people on here, Deb, that want to say a happy new year to you as well. Whilst they might not have had the pleasure to speak to you already at the start of this year, certainly you will no doubt speak to them about it over the last little bit. So
yeah. Hey, Benny Hinton, that's a great point, Dan. Benny Hinton, thanks for that, mate. We actually did the first podcast of 2022, which you guys will be listening to in the next week or so, probably next week or two, after my team do a little bit of editing and curating and putting it up online there. I think it was the better part of episode 30 or so. I'm not counting and I've lost count, if that makes sense. We probably won't get to what's his name? Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
Joe Rogan. Thank you. I was thinking about The last one we did was with Joe Lucino, and that was all about, managing a bit of PTSD as the sort of national psychology officer for Soldier On. But yesterday, myself and Simo did a ripper podcast with PTSD Dogs Australia. So please keep an ear out and an eye out for that one. We record these sessions. It was done by Zoom. So you have the amazing Angie Weeks, who's the co-founder and director of PTSD Dogs Australia. She spoke about so many awesome things that, and even if you're not a dog or animal lover, please make sure that you, as Noel's just placed in there, the link of where you can find all the podcasts anyway, keep an eye out from this one, because I've got my little puppy and he's not a specified assistance dog or thereabouts or therapy dog, but by fuck, he's provided me a huge amount of therapy and a huge amount of unconditional love and support and made me feel better in a way that another human can't. So, it'll be a great opportunity for you guys to jump on there and listen to Angie speak about that stuff, because it may come your way one day also.
Mate, I didn't know what you were about to say about little Hank then. And I'm like, are you going to talk about him? Like, is your little mate, or is nothing like
my phone. That's my phone screensaver. So there you go.
Look at that little fella.
Photo of me and I. That's the photo of Tamara and I getting married in the background. But don't worry about that. That's my dog.
That's the little paparono, mate. There you go. Hey.
Hey Dan, tell us, what did you and the tribe, the Irwin tribe, get up to over the Christmas break? I'm sure people are keen to know what happened or what you got up to.
Mate, I didn't really disappoint people. Like, nothing, almost nothing. So there was the odd occasion there, obviously, that we had some friends around or family around, that type of stuff. But
yeah,
you know how Christmas sort of rolls around. It's like, you know what? Everyone gets in the car and they spear off to every different part of Australia. Obviously, that's how bloody the Gold Coast has managed to become the epicenter of fucking COVID. But we sort of see ourselves a little bit fortunate that whilst we've still got younger than school-age children, I'm like, why do I want to go head-to-head with these buffheads in a caravan park or at a hotel or the pools and everything like that? Why do I want to go head-to-head with them during school holidays? Why don't I wait until those other families all have to go back to school and work and all those other commitments, and they're not going to be there on the weekends and so on and so forth? So we just, mate, to be perfectly honest, we spent a lot of time doing what I think lots of people would like to do on holidays but feel bad if they do that, which is rest and recover and be ready to turn up on the flip side. Because I don't know about you, mate, but so often I hear from people going, I've been on holidays for 3 weeks, but now I need a holiday from my holiday before I can get back into it, right?
What you describe has been and normally is me.
Yeah.
As no younger than school-age children, just a couple of puppies, Tamara and I normally tear the ass out of it, and we go party and we go travel and we have lots of boozy lunches, and sure as shit I get back to work, I'm fucking buggered because I've been partying for 3 weeks. Excuse me. But because we couldn't really travel anywhere, the borders sort of only opened just before Christmas, and then Christmas was upon us, and then I got a probably 72-hour bug of the vid. Tams has been in and out of it ever since then. I did fuck all as well. I watched my first ever sort of Netflix binge series. I watched a bit of Narcos and a bit of El Chapo. So it was interesting to see the scale and fucking crazy shit those guys got up to back in the day. Well, it's actually not even that long ago. But yeah, mate, I feel totally refreshed. For the first time that I can remember, I actually rested during the period as well. And I really, really hope all of our listeners got to do something similar.
Well, mate, I've actually been reflecting on the fact that when you've come back in almost like whirlwind Turner function, it's like you've kind of turned the clock back, mate. So for those of you who have been listening to us for a while ramble on about this shit, right? A few years ago, you would have seen Robbie and he's cursing, he's swearing, and he's jumping through the screen, and he's high energy and everything like that. He's really mellowed these days. But what I've noticed over the last, probably the last week and a half is I think old Robbie Turner's a little bit back. I think he's started to bounce back off the walls again. So, ladies and gents, watch this space. I reckon if we just keep him going for the next,
40 minutes.
Yeah, we'll just keep him going for a little while. We'll keep him fresh over the next couple of weeks, and maybe we can just turn back the clock to get a bit more Hooch Turner back on the screen.
I do want to thank you, mate. I appreciate that. I have been totally vegetarian for the last 10 days.
Mate, you're not allowed to say that. You might lose your listeners.
Why do we just have 5 people hang up? So, I mean, a lot of you would remember last year I did the 75 hard as my little endeavor, and you and I were both able to successfully complete that. And the wonderful Angie, who's on the line as well, and a handful of others. Many tried, many were not able to get through due to various reasons, and that's fucking why it's not called 75 easy or 75 sort of hard. This year I'm doing the vegetarian thing, and now I'm 10 days into it. I'm not posting pictures of myself. I'm not on a fucking calendar. I don't know how long it's going to go for. Today I caught up with a really, really good mate of mine who owns a building company that we're sort of exploring what that might look like. And he got the steak sandwich, and I had the roast vegetable salad. Sorry, the roast vegetable sandwich. So, and I fucking bit into it with a bit of halloumi and a bit of bloody pumpkin. I didn't realize how hot pumpkin was when it comes out of the oven, and I nearly fucking burnt my tongue. But anyway, that's...
There you go. Claire's absolutely correct there. Moo Moo's is going to go out of business, and the owner of Moo Moo is probably sitting here listening, mate, going, what happened to you? And where have you gone to? I don't know if you can be... Mate, you'll have to surrender your VIP seat down there.
And my knife.
Yeah, it's gone, mate. It's all just failing in the background now. So,
but yeah, I mean, you know what it's like. So for those of us that have had a couple of weeks off the piss, and you're eating and drinking lots of water, and I don't know, you just flush the system. And I particularly get and I remember it well from 75 hard, even though the 2 lots of 45 workouts were fucking draining. You just feel sharp, and you're on point, and you're not foggy, and you're just present. I've been having a glass of wine whenever the fuck I want, this year. That's what happens when you're sitting around doing fuck all for 10 days, even though the weather was terrible here on the Gold Coast in the meantime. So I haven't been off the piss, not on the piss either, quite frankly. But I've just been eating really, really well, and I not had fucking one little bit of meat pass through this mouth, and I feel the same way, like I'm off the piss. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Whether it's placebo or not, I don't know, but it's working, and I'm enjoying it. So it's one of those things. No, Jane Kelly, I'm not vegan. I'm vegetarian, and I've got a little book actually that I bought next door. It's called The Flexitarian Diet. Mainly vegetables, a tiny bit of meat, but I'm swinging the pendulum that way, and I might come back and correct it a little bit. Down the track.
There you go, mate. So new trial, new challenge for 2022.
Mate, why not? Question without warning. What have you mainly observed in the property space as we talk with you, Axon Property Group? Let's, in the lack of property related questions coming through from everybody, and I appreciate that everyone's probably just sitting there just catching up, and listening like a fly on the wall about what's been happening in the RT and dance space. What's one trend that you could probably see that you've observed, literally, as you said, in the last 10 days? We've only been back to work since the 10th of Jan. Here we are, the better part of 10 days later. What's your assessment on sort of how things have played out over the Christmas New Year period, and what's the current state of play, do you think? Question without warning.
It's the same as it was at the back end of last year, if I'm perfectly honest. It was a very interesting 2021 in the building industry, and I sort of did my 6 predictions for 2022.
That was excellent.
At the back end of last year for the masterclass for our elite members there. But it was kind of no surprises. I think that we're coming back online at the start of 2022, and it's very much business as usual from the conclusion of last year. And I've spoken to a few other industry professionals as well, basically saying, hey, what are you guys experiencing? And sort of most people are sort of turning around saying it hasn't really skipped a beat. I know that the RBA and a few of the banks at the end of last year basically came out and they're like, the murmurs were there saying interest rates are rising, interest rates are rising, interest rates are rising, which generally speaking has a few people fucking run for the hills, a little bit scared, right? So I'll get a few people to exit the market. But I kind of found that the start of this year, it hasn't really had that effect. I mean, we've had a couple of land releases since the start of the year, and still 50% of people are missing out on those blocks of land. So there's obviously the demand remains there that developers are selling out within hours of releasing their blocks of land. And I get it. Not all those blocks of land get sold to those exact people, and there's probably a few that come back to market and everything like that. But I'll tell you what, there's not that much out there. You got to be very, very diligent in your approach now. And then the world is tough. If you want to get a property these days, it's fucking hard work, to be perfectly honest. And I think it's going to get. I think we've got 6 more months of it, to be perfectly honest. 6 more months of really, really hard work. And I think that by the end of that 6 months, we'll start to see a little bit of the pressure come off a tiny bit. But the reason I think the pressure is going to come off isn't for a pretty reason from that perspective. The reason I think the pressure will come off is we'll have enough builders go under that all those tradies that have been working for those builders will be able to catch up the supply on the builders that remain. And then it will just sort of balance itself out over time. So more to follow on that space, I think.
That's an interesting observation. There's only been 2 go under that I've heard of that in our realm. Anyway, thankfully, fucking none of them are in our posse. That would be an absolute fucking disaster. And the price hikes and the stuff that tradies are doing, driving to a job with builder A, get a phone call from builder B offering more money and fucking turning down a side street and going to builder B when fucking leaving builder A in the bloody lurch. That's wild, wild west sort of shit. And you and I, to be fair, have caught up with some builders and had some sort of Christmas drinks and whatever else and Christmas lunches. And the stories they have had to pass on about that sort of shit occurring, which therefore that tradie and his men don't rock up for that day or those 2 days. And then the 5 other tradies that were waiting for that guy to do his work have then all been fucking delayed as well, like the second and third order effects of a massive fucking jigsaw puzzle. I'm so glad I don't do that, quite frankly. It's funny. It's like we don't do it, but we manage it. And the girls in our build support team, very aptly led by Jane, are living that life every fucking day because they're the bearer of bad news if there's been a delay or been a fucking something else happen to everyone going on there. So I was just gobsmacked in the what's the fucking word? Arrogance springs to mind, but it's probably not the best descriptor in the behavior of what tradies are doing and then what I just described. And even though some of you probably don't even know that it's occurred to you, I guarantee that it has occurred to you. It's just been managed by the builder and the construction team, etc. It's fucking crazy to know how much of a power balance is in the tradies right now or the subcontractors as opposed to the builders. So let's fucking hope that settles down a little bit. And the fact that there's only been 2 builders go under so far, noting this has been going on for, since mid-year in earnest, he's fucking hoping that the builders have still got a bit more of a runway to actually happen and get through this because it will settle at some stage. Obviously, we've got a couple of comments there and we'll come back to them in a second. But Dan, I feel like you want to.
Yeah, it's relatively short time. And there's probably some tradies listening right now. And let's be honest, guess what? It's very, very short-sighted if you're a tradie and you're, biting the hand that feeds you in order to just go and grab a short-term buck versus a long-term fucking return. So, it's not for me, but at the end of the day, mate, I'm not the one that's pulling the purse strings on their personal businesses. So they can make their bed, but they better lie in it when the time comes. Or I think they'll be forced to, put it that way.
Yeah, mate, 100%. And let me just so Chris Barton, let me just come back to this. So I'll give you my observation in a second because you're gonna reply to me anyway. Chris Barton, hey guys, been in the ADF for a little under a year. Have a small deposit saved. Would like an overview of benefits so I can access to put towards an investment property. Chris, thanks so much for the question, buddy. Excuse me. If I can just reply straight away, and what you've just said then, Chris, is part of the reason why Axon exists. You're probably like, well, that's fucking. So we turn 5 in another 1 month's time, right? So there's a few indoor cricket seasons we've had under our belt, mate. The fact that you've been in the military for a year or so, and you're still, dare I say it, thinking that you can use, and I'm not having a crack at you here, champion. I'm saying this is the fucking reason why there's an education, coaching, and guidance business like us that exists. You've just placed in your comment talking about using your any benefits, be that Defence Force and housing entitlements or government grants to buy an investment property. It doesn't work like that. And unfortunately, the misinformation and disinformation and rumor mill in your workforce, buddy, I don't care if you're Army, Navy, Air Force, it's across the board. so many people don't know that you can't get access to any of your grants for an investment property. It's only for your own home. So, mate, more than happy to, for you to make sure that you know what's going on there. Noah, can you please do me a favor for young Chris?
Already in there, bro.
Say again.
It's already in there.
Is it the link?
Yep.
Oh, great. I'm so sorry. Yes.
Mate,
Thank you.
Chris,
Thank you.
Chris, the only entitlement you get access to, mate, is the greatest entitlement of them all, RA.
Yeah. And
you get to keep that sucker when you do an investment property. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah. If you've been in for a little under a year, your CEO is probably not going to give you RA straight away. They'll probably make you live on base to make sure you're a fucking half decent adult. You're not going to fucking wreck yourself. And then you might be given permission to live off base. And I'm speaking very generically here, but that is an ADF housing entitlement that you do get, but it's not to purchase anything. It's about to pay live-in or married quarter rates for a fucking kick-ass apartment somewhere, especially if you're in the Navy living in fucking Woolloomooloo, for instance, right? Junior Herman, thank you, mate. Glad to see a very, very long-time fan of ours. Glad to see Axon take the lead and make a difficult decision when Axon clients were not getting the expected service. Yes, we have cut away one particular service provider at the latter part of last year. And thanks for the hard work in locating and working to bring a new service provider on board. Obviously, we're not going to leave you guys in the lurch. Let's cut them away, but I don't have a solution for you. That was never going to be part of the conversation. Just goes to show the Axon ongoing commitment to clients, including those who have already moved beyond the immediate build stage. Thanks, team. Well, yeah, let's, to be fair, next fortnight, actually, Angie, warning order without warning. You're going to come and join us next Wednesday, mate, the following Wednesday. Let's get you on board here because I know you've had such amazing conversations with so many people and so many clients. And let's get you on board here now. There you wear an Axon shirt, buddy, and let's talk about all those sort of things that Junior Herman's talking about here. So, yeah.
There you go. Look at that. Yay, we want Angie. I think that's coming from internal. We've already got Angie at Axon. We now just need to get her in front of everyone else. So
there she is. Awesome. Can't wait. Fucking gold. No dramas.
What about you, mate? What's been the thing that's been slapping you in the face, I suppose, since you come back to work, mate?
I'll get to that in a second, but one point you made before, which is a very relevant part of this as well. And it's all about getting access to blocks of land and the difficulties we're facing as defense members with highly specialized backgrounds, Army, Navy, Air Force, improvise, adapt, overcome no matter fucking what mindset. So no is not no. No just means not in that process. I'm like, no worries, we'll find another fucking process to make it happen then. I had lunch with an amazing guy yesterday, young Sam, who's about to buy his second property with us. He's an operator down at the Special Ops Engineer Regiment. Last name withheld, of course. And he was talking to me about, he goes, he's got another one of the blokes in the unit down there who's thinking about using our services. And he had a bit of a chat with his mum. His mum's like, what do you need to pay someone else to do it for you, hun? Just go fucking do it by yourself. She probably didn't say fucking, and I'm probably not reciting her correctly.
She probably didn't sound like that either, by the way.
But and then he called Sam, who's been working with us for a little while, and he goes, hey, so what do you reckon, mate? Like, should I just why do I need to pay Axon 10 grand or so to get them to do everything for me? Like, mum reckons I can just do it by myself. And I didn't even know this conversation was happening. So Tam gave me the heads up about this. And I'm going to tell old mate Brenton about it anyway. So I might as well just fucking put it here on the live. And then Sam gave him his feedback about, look, you're down here, you're specced up, you're going to be busy, you're going to be pulled from pillar to post. Like, you just give it to them and they take care of it for you, and you can just keep living your life and continuing along that sort of, that pathway, bouncing in and out of the States on your specialist courses, because, there's no way in the world you're going to have the time to be able to project manage a build while you're away. But then I said to him, but more importantly, if we're finding it difficult, not impossible, as evidenced by the 8 EOIs that we've submitted already in the last 10 days of us being back at work. So we definitely got some traction going on, which is freaking amazing. If we're finding incredibly difficult to find land, how the fuck is a punter, respectfully, doesn't have his head in the game about working with professionals in the industry? Just ask yourself this question in the mirror. How are you going to source blocks of land if we are finding it difficult? fucking silence. Correct. Like, so I guess it's, and I said to him, no worries. I'll have a buddy chat with him. If old mate wants to go and do it by himself, you put it back in the water, I won't give him a kiss. And he goes and fucking swims away and has a crack. But yeah, I guess I'm really, really proud, Dan, of the processes and the mentoring and the leadership you've shown with Dave Simpson and the property specialist team about how to get the result for our clients no matter what. Now, sure, Timmy McGregor, I saw you before, and brother, I'm going to talk to you real soon. I saw a message come through before. I've been driving. I apologize, I haven't got back to you. You have been inside our system waiting for a block of land in your location for your price point, highly personalized for you, for over a year, I believe. And we're at that point now whereby we're just about, I think, we can probably pull the trigger on something. So I guess it's just a really important point that the lack of land availability, Dan, that you spoke about, and the overall conditions is there. But fucking try and do this by yourself at your whim is my observation.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very to use very loose terms, like I think a dangerous environment for punters wanting to have a crack themselves. I mean, how many times do you see it on the old bloody 60 Minutes, mate? Of people who get half a house built down in the middle of nowhere and fucking, then the next thing you know, they're fucking, or there's some punter buying his own house up in Townsville and so on and so forth. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, his mum is obviously she's had a crack or she's done her thing, and she's probably living by the old rules, right? Remember, buy your house, pay it off as quick as you possibly can, and then once you're debt free on your own home, then you start saving up, then you start doing investing after that, and like doing it the old school way, which is really, mate. You know what? If you want to buy a house out in the back of Bathurst and grow up and never leave town and do all that thing, then maybe that is the right thing for you. Like, everyone's got their own journey to be on, and if he wants to go down that track, then have a crack, bro. It's fine.
Yeah. Thanks, Jake, for that, mate. Reason to get the experts. Wife and I going back and forward to Savo with finance questions. Deb emailed back straight away, and James, the legend, rang straight away to put us at ease. Mate, we pride ourselves on being responsive as we possibly can. It'd be very, very rare for one to go 24 or 48 hours without getting some sort of either, hey, contact, wait out, whatever it's going to be, or a proper answer with someone from us, because we've all been in your shoes before. And, quite frankly, you guys are paying us a few dollars to get that level of service. And by fuck, Dan and I are onto it straight away to make sure the boys are doing exactly, Jake, as you've said there. But I guess for me, mate, the glaring trend is the prices are just keep going up. Those 3 blocks that came back to market yesterday, that was sent directly to us from a developer to say, hey, we've got these 3 blocks that have come back on, Axon. You guys have fucking got an amazing reputation in the industry. Do you have any buyers for these blocks? I was so proud that happened, because it's very, very rare for a developer to come to a group like us to be able to make that happen. But obviously they've heard the jungle drums and they know that we've got fucking highly qualified, educated, coached, qualified clients ready to go. But the blocks of land, then of course, the very first thing we do is then go back and go, oh, that block for that size block, how much was that for the last lot of clients that got in 6 months ago? And it was $70,000 difference. I fell off my chair.
The thing that made me a little bit sad, obviously, when that email came through, I'm like, oh, yeah, excellent. Because I remembered those previous clients. So I can remember the price. And I'm like, yeah, sure, there'll be a slight increase on the price, but I'm sure that I might be able to rework a couple of clients and be able to take those blocks of land. But then when I'm like actually read through it, I'm like, oh, shit, that's not going to work.
Yes.
It's just, the numbers change the game. And I mean, there's some of those people, mate, like you're talking about, remember, they only put $1,000 in, let's call it 5 months ago into the game. And now they've just made a fucking buku amount of cash because of the demand that still remains there. There's sort of the underlying demand. And mate, this is like one of those corridors, if you remember back, like they're probably expecting about another 300% population growth over the next 10 years.
Oh yeah, mate. It's only in the first third of this lifespan of this this little project you speak about. So yeah, I guess it just highlighted to me that as soon as you are possibly able to do something in the market without being silly, and without being reckless and without doing your due diligence and all the stuff that goes with it. Actually, there's one other trend that I observed as well as I go into this.
That's right. You can say that one next.
I will. Thank you. Just fucking do it. Like, get a plan in place. Like, there's a 12-month lead time anyway on blocks, except if there's ones that come back to market like this. These blocks register in February, so it's fucking going to be a great news story for somebody if they can do that. It is going to price out some of the people that we had slated for that location, because 70 grand is obviously makes a big difference to people's borrowing power and the like. But the other trend that's actually emerging is this. When you buy a property down in New South Wales and Victoria, you've got to put a 10% deposit down on the block of land, let's say $30,000. That is a non-refundable deposit, and you don't have a finance clause. You've got to go unconditional straight away. In Queensland, as all of you remember that have gone through this, you put, might be 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. I think one of the developers is asking for $10,000 deposit now. You're fully protected by a finance clause. And if you can't get your finance approved, you get your 10 to 5 grand back again. The other trend we're now seeing due to the demand, Dan, is the removal. So when there's 400 EOIs that get placed down on 37 blocks of land, as a developer, that's a fucking great, that's demand right there, staring us in the face. As a developer, they're your own, where you don't care who buys the block. You just want the people in the strongest financial position to buy the block, so we're not going around in fucking circles trying to sell it to someone who's hopefully got their shit together. You need to put some filters in place. They're like, right, you've got three choices. You can put $1,000 down and want a finance clause, and that's the lowest barrier of entry. You can put a 10% deposit down and still have a finance clause. That's the second barrier to entry. Or the top tier barrier to entry, better bring it down again so it's still inside the screen. The top tier barrier of entry is 10% deposit down, no finance clause, i.e. you go all in a bit more. Guess who got those 37 blocks of land?
Top tiers.
Top tiers only. So I guess that's another trend. Like, it's one of those things, fortune favors the bold. Who dares wins, all that stuff, right? You get the sentiment. And sure, we had some people that we coached and guided and said, look, when we did your plan, we spoke about a small deposit and you'll be protected by a finance clause. Now the game has changed. If you want that fucking block of land, and we'll go back and get the numbers checked by Deb to make sure that we are as watertight as what we possibly can now. Wrap yourself in fucking cotton wool. Don't lose your job. Everyone's a lot of people in the military, so that's not going to happen anyway. Don't get pregnant all of a sudden. Don't fucking go buy a car all of a sudden. To keep your circumstances in order as much as you can, because the numbers work. But you got to go all in, and you got to put a non-refundable deposit down, and then hope like fuck you get your finance approved. When the time comes. So, is more risk that is placed in there, but those that are willing to take the risk get $70,000 of equity before they've even fucking started building.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the trend, mate, that I've observed. I'll seek your comments on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, that methodology, like, there's probably people that are sitting there going like, holy shit, that is like scary, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, there's probably people that are sitting there down in New South Wales and Victoria and Canberra and stuff going, fucking how good is that up in Queensland? I want to go up there and buy properties. Risk-free purchasing. It's like, yeah, it's bullshit. I'm down here in Canberra scrapping and scraping, waiting for my block of land that's 2.5 years away from being developed, and I've paid and gone unconditional, mate. Like, they're on lockdown for like 2 years in some estates down there. And it does become one of those things. But when you start thinking about it from a diligence perspective, mate, right, you go into it, you take the block of land off the market and everything like that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to get your finance approved, you should be trying to be squeaky clean as you're going in for finance anyway, and making yourself look as pristine as possible so you don't come up with any red flags like, no changes, no fucking I've spent $1,000 at this casino this week for some reason or anything like that. Like, just make your bank statements nice and clean for like 3 months in the lead up, so the banks don't even bat an eye, and you become their favorite one. They put the big rubber stamp on and go, yep, approved.
What do we say, mate? Make it a no-brainer for the person you're asking to make a decision.
Absolutely. You just, if you present yourself in that very best light, and that's what every applicant from a loan perspective should do too. Like, we need to be able to make that work. So there you go. Seeing the Instagram, Sammy here, Sammy TW, seeing the Instagram post you guys put up the other day showing recent examples of houses from 600K and seeing what the estimated value for our house is, I was shocked at just how much the growth there has been in the area. I'm bloody stoked.
Now, a lot of you guys won't realise this, but Sammy lives in that house that won the photo competition, the one with the beautiful sunset. Effectively, you can't see the sun. You can see the sun
reflection
in the front of the house there. So I can't wait until old mate gets back from where he is, mate, and we're going to sit down and we're going to squeeze the fuck out of your plan in the nicest possible way, and you guys are going to propel yourselves forward just purely based on the chance you took with us a little while ago. Sammy, I'm stoked that you're stoked, mate. It's, and the numbers sort of speak for themselves. Brett and Leslie Duggan, the same thing, a house, very similar property to ours. And Sammy, Brett and Leslie did a very similar thing to you guys, not a 2-story place, a single story, beautiful home, similar property to house around the corner, sold for 170 more than our project cost a little than 12 months ago. Not reading too much into it, but still a great sign. You can read into it, buddy, because that's, that is now, Brett, a registered sale in that estate. Guess what the value is used when they're looking at the value of new properties? A registered sale. Remember from one of our sessions we did in November last year, Dan, where the market was moving so fast and obviously hasn't slowed down. Real estate agents look in the here and now. Valuers need to look back a couple of months ago of what the registered sales are. You guys need to look forward into what you're going to get from the benefit, as you're seeing there from Sammy and Leslie and Brett respectively. So it's good that registered sale, brother, has now happened in that estate, because it's going to benefit you guys when you want to get your house valued and we go and look at the second property for you. And whenever you guys are ready to have that conversation, I'm always here for you. But most importantly, other people that need to get their finance approved in that estate are going to be grateful that property around the corners has been sold to someone who wants to fuel the market.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the other thing that ties into that as well is, whilst the team have been doing a lot of reviews on rentals at that point in time as well.
Online, rental prices are increasing. Angie Paradise,
Angie's on board too. So obviously, pretty much every single client at the moment is going through a full revamp. It's like, how much is your property rented for at the moment? What should we be doing from a market rent perspective? Because I know, ladies and gents, there's a lot of you out there that are very, very generous souls and amazing people, right? But just like what Sammy, it was just like what Leslie was talking about there, where you're going to have a registered sale. When the bank is actually going through for those new purchases, if it's an investment property, they look at how much you would expect to rent that property for too. And they look at what the properties are actually renting for on the market. So what you're doing in essence is, if you're sitting there going, hey, my tenant is a bloody good egg, I know that I can get $500 a week from a market rent perspective, but my tenant's a good egg, so I only do it for $400 a week for him. What you're actually doing for future people to be able to move in there is you're kind of putting the handbrake on a little bit as well. Because when the valuers go in there, they go, this is how much it would be worth, and this is how much it would rent for down the bottom there. And if you've got heaps of people in your estate that are trying to be good blokes and just give low rental prices out from that perspective, it makes it harder for the next people who are buying houses in there to be able to get their finance approved from a serviceability perspective. And it actually, what it does, if you can continue to reinforce that cycle, it slows down the property growth cycle as well, because people can't get finance to pay more for houses in that area, and then therefore the finance won't go through and the prices will start to stagnate. So you don't want to always be the good dude that's reducing your rental price. You want to have that rental price ticking over year after year after year after year and reviewing it. Sure, you want to be at market rent, but you don't also want to be without tenants. So it's a bit of a balancing act that you need to be in there.
I'm glad you brought up that point, actually. Sam, who I had lunch with the other day, and by the way, Michelle Hines, I can see that you've just joined the conversation there. I loved speaking to yourself and Paul last night. Go back and watch this from the start. We've passed on some. Fast forward the first 20 minutes.
I thought you were going to tell me that Michelle's been too nice with her rent, mate. No.
This is another good story. Go back, fast forward the first 20 minutes, Michelle, but like after Dan and I gave everyone a quick little update about what we did over the Christmas break. You guys got that from me over the last little while there, but yeah, go listen to the last 20 minutes that we've been talking. So lunch that I had with Sam, as I mentioned 15 minutes ago, I said, mate, what's going on with your property? you got $540 a week rent for your property. He goes, yeah, I was stoked with that. And I said, what did we estimate when we did the property pack for you? He goes, I think 470 or 480. I'm like, all right. So we got 70, $80 a week over what the, what the price was. He goes, yeah, it's awesome. I'm like, but here's the thing. I said, if it's due to then come back around mid-year to get rented again, I think it might have even been March. I said, mate, there's a house around the corner, which is exactly the same as yours. It got rented for $630. He's like, I signed a 2-year lease. I'm like, oh, fuck, I remember that now. You did too. But here's the thing. In March last year, $540 a week and give you the peace of mind that you're going to get 2 years of fixed for that premium rental price at $540, $70 a week more than what we predicted it to be. No wonder we said, fuck yeah, mate, do a bloody 2-year lease. Fast forward 9 months into now, it's $90 a week more. So he's like, oh man, I'm fucking missing out on that money. He's a quietly spoken bloke. He didn't say fucking, but he's like, I'm missing out on that money. But I'm like, no, bro, you can't be a hindsight hero. In the back then, that was the primo rent. It's a good sign for when you do come off that rent in another 18 months' time, whatever it's going to be, stand by to get a shit ton more money coming your way. Yeah. So, and that's just one story. And then, so it went from, what was it? 570 to 630 in 4 months. 560 to 630. So yeah, they're in the right areas. There is some fucking booming rental growth going on right now, and you're absolutely right, Dan. All that money goes into the pot that Deb then gets to work for when she's looking at your new borrowing capacity report. So yeah, it's gold. And Angie, publicly, mate, as I say to you all the time, you are doing such a great job. People are loving talking to you about, as our strategic relationships manager, what has been the process, what in the market, in the rental space, what should I be getting now? But most importantly, what steps can I put in place to make sure that the market movement, as Dan just spoke about, is actually coming your way? Yeah. You know what, Sammy? It's an interesting question. The standard term is 12 months. You as the landlord can ask for a 6-month lease. But I guess you may scare away some tenants, though, because if you put yourself in the tenant's shoes, they don't want to sign a 6-month lease because you might boot them out after that 6 month, or they know that they're going to be up for more money. So it's a balancing act. It's a great conversation to have with Angie. And then, well done, Jane.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think what Sammy's sort of spoken about there, Tracy, you kind of touch on it, and Jane does as well. Like all this stuff comes down to a bit of a balance of risk and what you're willing to take on as well. Because some people might be like, I want to have a long-term tenant that sits in my property and it looks after it the best. Yeah. That's fine, but just acknowledge the fact that if you want a long-term tenant, you might be sacrificing on other elements as well. Like Sam just said, I've got a tenant for 2 years. He's got guaranteed rent for 2 years though.
Correct.
So there's a benefit on that side as well. And Stacey sort of said the ability to keep great tenants definitely outweighs gaining a couple of extra dollars. Like I always look at it, what is going to be the cost to me if I have to remove that tenant as well? So if that tenant is paying $500 a week and I know that I'm going to have to pay a 1.1 weeks letting fee, I know already I'm up for at least $550 to find a new tenant. And is the delta that I'm talking about more or less than $550? Like if it's within the margins and it's like $5 a week difference, like would I haggle over it? Probably not, personally. But if it's going to be $60 a week, I can guarantee you when the leases come around again, if the market had gone down by $60 a week, your tenant would not sit there going, you know what would be a good idea, landlord? I'll keep paying $60 a week more than market rent because I think you're a pretty good landlord, because they just won't do it at the end of the day, right? Like you got to think of it from both ways as to what you think the next move is going to be. Because your tenant also doesn't want to pay $1,500 for a removalist to come through your house and then have to go through and clean the entire property as well. There's benefits to them staying. There's benefits to you having them stay. In some cases, like it's just not an ongoing workable relationship as well. And you just need to accept that, because I kind of think of my investment properties as little businesses.
They are.
They are little businesses, and each single property needs to look after itself and stand on its own 2 feet from that perspective.
And contribute to the portfolio as a whole. Natina, I've loved your comment there. You can do a 12-month with an increase at the 6-month mark written into the lease, which works great sometimes for tenant and landlord. Natina, as a property manager yourself, that's a great piece of advice. So speak with Angie, team. Angie is there, and she has She's an industry expert in the rental space that now wears an Axon shirt, and you're going to sit here and jaw off with her in 2 weeks' time, probably with the great man Dane as well.
Mate, how nice is it to just go, you know what, ladies and gents? Speak to Ange.
Yeah.
Sully Sullivan, my man.
Speaking of good blokes, yes.
Mate, I was speaking about you today. Extremely excited to hear, mate, that your property is very, 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 very close to the end. And I can assure you, I am coming to visit you guys when the keys get handed over. I will be there just to make sure everything has come together nicely as well, mate. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing you guys again as well.
Yeah, so good. Oh, far out, mate. Hasn't there been some belter? Like, isn't property management and tenants and landlords and rental prices and whatever else a bloody hot topic? And you know what, Dan, I haven't heard what you just said a second ago for a long time. If the market's going down, the first thing the tenant's doing is demanding that their rent go down because that's what the market is. Why am I paying premium bloody rent when everyone else is paying less? So it's a very delicate balancing act, which can be done in a pragmatic and professional way. As long as everyone's thinking win-win, and as long as everyone's being fair and reasonable, and no one's being the proverbial dickhead in the circumstance, there will be a solution.
Yeah, there's never a reason to be a dickhead about it. It's just, hey guys, remember, like, this is also because I mean, a lot of the times landlords get painted as like these multi-millionaires that obviously if you're my landlord, you've got 20 other properties and you're a big property mogul, right? Like the average investor has one house.
Yep.
And they're just got an investment property to try to supplement their income or to be able to make ends meet when they retire. It's highly unlikely that you're going to come across most well, what is it? I think it's less than 5% of investors have two investment properties.
Correct. Yeah. Less than 5%.
Less than 5%. So it's highly likely if you're renting out there that you're probably just renting off some, well, in our circumstances, some young soldier, sailor or airman, but more than likely like a mum or dad that's literally just trying to make their life and their retirement a little bit better. And if we're just sort of sitting there and we're haggling over $10, like we're probably not in the right game there because these people might need that $10 just as much as what the tenant does as well. They might be working through their own stuff, especially as interest rates now start to rise, which is what the RBA said they're going to do in the next few years as those things start to do and cost of living starts to increase and CPI creeps back in and all that stuff's going to come into our lives. Inflation is going to make things a little bit harder. So we need to make sure that sort of everyone ends up looking after each other from that perspective as well.
Yeah. I'm positive that one of the reasons why people can't move from one property to the next is their lack of understanding, Dan, of how equity works. Now, as you and I have been really focusing, especially in the last 6 months of last year, and certainly all of my calls except for one, I had 13 client calls last week, a half dozen or so already this week, but there was only one brand new coaching session. That means the rest of them were current clients building portfolios, reviewing circumstances, etc. In every single one of those conversations, I had to talk to them about, hey, look, here's the difference between total equity in your house and available equity in your house. So that's the position that you've got. And then this is how the banks look at equity, and this is how you can then use that equity as a deposit and cost to go and buy your own home, second property, whatever it's going to be. So I think something that I've really, really enjoyed, I said to all of our clients, I'm like, I haven't taught you this yet, because when you're buying your first property, you don't have any equity. You have a deposit and cost coming from your cash. Then when that property goes up in value, I can now teach you about the differences between total and available equity, and then what you can do with that with your portfolio to make it happen. So something I'm really, really proud of is the fact we do focus on education and coaching and strategizing about what's going on. And then, of course, we put that intent into the overall sync matrix. And would you agree, mate, once you explain how equity is used, not only is it then understood and people have more confidence in what's going on, they can have that conversation with Debbie as well and Jace, the accountant, etc., and financial planner to make sure that what they're doing is not something scary and really foreign to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. If you understand, I think it's like one of the first slides in literally any of the information we present to people. It's like these two dials, right? Two dials with like a speedo, basically. One under the bottom of it just says competence, and the other one says confidence. It's like, if you know what you're doing, eventually it becomes a no-brainer because you'll have the confidence to know that you're going to be able to achieve it as well. And I mean, I think that demonstrates true that what you're sort of saying there. Like, if people knew what they were doing, if people understood that they're not building a house of cards, like, we're not talking about potentially cross-securitizing or anything like that. These are all their own little standalone businesses we just spoke about then. Like, if you start to understand all of that stuff, then it certainly allows you to sort of start to really grow your portfolio to a degree.
Yeah. Stacey Russell, how are you, buddy? Great to see you online. I just want to, what you've said there, you can make up some rent shortfalls with a good depreciation schedule. That's a no-brainer. It's one of the reasons why you buy a brand new house, because you can claim the fixtures and fittings and the Division 43 or the superstructure of the house. A lot of people don't know that if you buy a secondhand property, even if it's only 6 months old, you wipe out all the fixtures and fittings. You can't claim them as the second time owner of that property. So you walk away from thousands of dollars of ongoing tax deductions. You know, and certainly if you do a whole lot of modifications, if you fucking, I don't know, spend 10 grand on a bloody outdoor decking or whatever, then you can write that off on depreciation as well. Noting, of course, you don't get 10 grand back in your tax. You get the depreciable amount of that 10 grand, and then you only get your taxable percentage of that depreciable amount. So it is actually quite small, Stace, when you do crunch the numbers. And I'm not trying to do the reduction to the ridiculous. I'm just saying, don't just rely. Sure, you get a rent return and a tax return, and the non-cash deductions of your depreciation report form part of it. That is true. But here's the thing. And when you're in your accumulation mode, you should be relying on your rent return and tax return, because when Deb's doing her calculator, she uses the negative gearing aspect to it, i.e. that some small tax return parts of it, which the banks do take into consideration. At some stage, ladies and gents, you'll be less reliant on any tax returns, and you'll only be in the positive gearing space, even on principal and interest, because that's what gives you passive income. Why do you want to be a successful property investor? Be that 1, 2, or 3 properties, whatever it's going to be, and your own home and a couple of investment properties to escape the 30-year mortgage trap. But one day you want to be able to have that passive income where you actually have a tax bill. You've got to pay more tax because you're getting more income from your properties that you bought fucking 20 years ago. So yeah, I guess it is, and that's more in the sort of the consolidation phase there. But please have a healthy balance of rent return and tax return in the first few years, and squeeze the fuck out of all of your depreciation by using the diminishing value method if that's what the accountant says is best for your circumstances. Write off all those high ticket items in the first 5 or 6 years. But then when the rental market continues to do what it is doing and has been happening, and hopefully continues to do so, you won't give a fuck about getting another extra 2 or 3 grand back in your tax. You'll be focused on making an extra 10 grand in rent, because that, ladies and gents, is what's going to give you the passive income down the track when you can choose to get out of the military and then work 2 or 3 days a week and supplement whatever other income and your super and your DVA and whatever else is coming your way. So I just wanted to make that point there, that the rent return, tax return doesn't go on forever. It's only relevant in the first few years.
Absolutely, mate. It's one of those things you balance, and you should get it through your accumulation phase, and then you ride off into the sunset to enjoy it all, right?
Yes, that's the plan, mate. That is the plan. There you go. Hey, did you know, ladies and gents? So yeah, a couple of public announcements, I suppose. Noah and her amazing team there in the marketing and graphic design have come up with an awesome Axon calendar for 2022. It's sort of like a fireman's calendar, but there's none of us on it. It's just like little Axon symbols everywhere. So, Noah, I can't even remember what the bloody process is for people to get their hands on that. So if you can just maybe put a link in or do whatever you need to do. There you go. The 2022 Axon Property Group ADF calendar. So thank you for doing that, mate. That's our free gift to you guys. Go for it. It's all yours. Crack on. Axon, little baby Axon that we started with Tamara and I buying a $50 whiteboard off Gumtree. We turned 5 in 1 month's time. So that's going to be an amazing celebration there. We've got a bit of a boat cruise here on the Gold Coast, and it's just going to be Axon team members and their partners some family and friends coming along as well. So that'll be a sort of great little thing there. So certainly I'd love it if, in about a month's time, if you guys can come and join us and give us a sort of a big happy birthday along the way. And this is another sort of 10 months or so away. This guy, Benny Hinton, that guy turns 50 in November. So there you go. Axon turns 5, RT turns 50. So we've got a couple.
Big year for the Turners.
Big year, mate. Big year. All right, we better go. It's 19:30.
Yes.
Let's keep the timings. Dan, I know you've probably got some other calls to
I
make.
do.
Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone. What a fucking ripper crew we had online tonight. If you're watching the replay, enjoy. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Same bat channel, same bat space. Thanks, Noah. Thanks, Dan. See you later. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.